real quick, for any of our listeners, readers, people watching, who may have been living under a rock the last, say, 16 years, introduce yourself and what you do in the band.
My name is Riley Breckenridge. I play drums in Thrice. We've been a band, I guess, for in total 18 years, and there was a 3 or 4 year hiatus in the middle there. And we put out a new record called To Be Everywhere Is To Be Nowhere, and we are currently on tour in support of that. And I am in balmy Charlotte, North Carolina today.
That's right. You guys are currently on tour supporting that album with La Dispute, correct?
Yes, La Dispute and
Gates. Cool, man. Well, we will definitely be seeing you guys tonight in Charlotte. We will be there. Can't wait for
awesome.
that. Let's talk about your album here for a second. To Be Everywhere Is To Be Nowhere has just been out a couple of weeks and is by far phenomenal. That's an understatement in my opinion. But
thanks.
Yeah, man, the album is great. So let's talk about that for a little bit. Let's talk about making that album. This is one of your highest debuting albums, correct?
Yeah, it's insane. Completely insane. It was like far beyond anybody's expectations or even like an optimistic expectation. Far exceeded that. So we're blown away and just so grateful to be welcomed back to doing this. With so much support and enthusiasm from not only like the people who have been sticking with us over the years, but seems like there are also a lot of new people that are getting turned on to the band. Like, how come I haven't heard of Thrice before? And it's like, well, we've been doing this for a long time. But everybody and anybody is welcome. So we're super stoked and super grateful.
Yeah, when you've been doing this for almost 2 decades, you kind of scratch your head going, how in the world have you missed my band over the last 20 years, you know?
Yeah, I mean, at times we kind of got pigeonholed into certain scenes or genres that we didn't really feel like we didn't want to be limited by those. So we just kind of did our own thing. And I think the best way to describe this record, the new record, is that it's a rock record. I mean, there are elements of post-hardcore and alternative and maybe some shoegazy elements and some sludgy elements, but I'm stoked that it's resonating with people, and I'm stoked that people are checking it out regardless of, you know, what box this or that magazine wants to put us in sonically. So it's been cool.
Yeah, you guys, the album came in at 15 on the top 200 on Billboard. Did you think, you know, a year and a half ago when you guys announced, you know, because you pretty much broke the internet when y'all released the photo of the mixing board announcing a new album. Did you guys think at that point that this album would just totally take off like it did? Like 15 on the top 200, that's not too shabby, especially for a band who, you know, decided to take a little hiatus there for a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's insane. I mean, and with any record, you're obviously trying to make the best music you can at that given time, but you have zero control over how people are going to react to it. And I mean, we've had records that we thought were great, that we were really proud of, that, you know, fell a little bit flatter than previous releases. You know, you have songs on a track listing or in a live set that you think are going to go over well, and sometimes they fall flat. And then there are songs that you're kind of on the fence about that people really gravitate towards. So it's an unpredictable thing. You never know who's going to like what or at what time. Even like a record like Bisu, we put that out after The Artist in the Ambulance, which was I guess by industry standards, our most successful record. And Visu, by industry standards, was considered kind of a flop. And it didn't really go over very well with our fans, or as well as we might have hoped. But then, like 8 or 10 years later, you have a generation of younger bands coming up, and I've heard a lot of people citing that as an influential record. That's just crazy to hear. So yeah, you never know who's going to like what. So the best thing to do as a band is just trust your gut, make the music you want to make, and if you want to play, and cross your fingers and hope for the best. And at the end of the day, if you're happy with what you made, I think that's something to hang your hat on.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we will push like, oh, an album wasn't phenomenal because it didn't, chart at this or whatever, when in all reality, there's, tons of awesome musicians out there and awesome bands that are putting music out weekly that you may or may not have ever heard of, but...
Oh, absolutely. Like a majority of my iTunes library is stuff that would never be on any Billboard chart or anything.
You sound a lot like me.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of amazing bands that I guess you could classify as quote unquote bands, where like if you're talking to somebody who's just kind of a nominal fan of music, they'll be like, oh man, I've never heard of them. But if you talk to bands that you're out on tour with, they're like, oh my God, that band's amazing. I have all their records. So yeah, I mean, as cool as the Billboard stuff is, that is definitely not the end all and be all of like what makes the band work.
All right, let's talk about making this a little bit, because it's known that when you guys took your hiatus there, that you guys kind of got married, had families, moved to different parts of the country. How was making this record different versus making like previous ones, especially being in different locations and different parts of the U.S., using technology that we have now? Would you say that it was easier for you guys to write this record versus being stuck in a room with each other for hours on end, or would you say it was a little bit harder to write this one because you are on your own?
It had its pros and cons. The geography definitely made it challenging. I think we were kind of used to writing where we'd get into our rehearsal space and just jam ideas out for hours and hours and hours for days, weeks, months at a time until we had built, ideas into songs and demos that we felt strong about. And this time we didn't really have that luxury because Stepe was living up in the Pacific Northwest. So this time around, we started writing the same way that we would write any other record, which is everybody writes on a variety of different instruments and records ideas, either on their iPhone or with GarageBand or Logic in their home studio. And you kind of stockpile a bunch of ideas. And then when it comes time to write a record, we basically just have a listening party where we all sit around and just play little MP3 clips of like, oh, this could be a cool verse or a cool chorus or a cool bridge or outro or whatever. And so we still did that this time, but it was more virtual. Like, we loaded everything up into a Dropbox, and then guys could listen to parts and start thinking about which ones of those parts would work well together. And then we built Logic sessions with those song ideas and started to hash out song arrangements and song structures. And that was great because, we wouldn't get burnt out. If you play the same verse chorus idea for 2 hours or 4 hours in an afternoon, you can get pretty burnt out on the idea, and you could shelve it, even though it has some potential. So this was a way to keep everybody's ears fresh, to keep the communication organized and open. And then as we were doing the one-off shows, like all the festivals we did last year, we'd have Tepe fly in a little early or stick around a little bit afterwards, and we'd schedule like 4 or 5 days of jamming where we could take those Logic files that we'd worked on and kind of hash them out in a live setting to see how they felt. So that was really beneficial, but I guess it was just challenging in that it was a new process for us.
All right, man. All right, so let's talk about something that's become really popular over the last few years. You know, you guys started out, like you said, almost 18 years ago. So back in the late 90s and, you know, early 2000s and things like that, you guys still had you were pushing, you know, physical copies of the CDs. You're pushing, you know, all that stuff as far as your fans go, you know, selling them at shows, people going to Best Buy, picking those up and things like that. Let's talk about the change of the way the music industry's done over the last few years, going away from, say, like the physical copies of an album to, you know, all the digital media and, you know, streaming sites and things like that. Nikki Sixx had made a point and said that YouTube was the devil when it comes to music for musicians and things like that, talking about what they get paid and things like that. Do you think with technology the way it is now, do you think it was better back in the, you know, when you guys first got started, you know, with the physical CDs, or do you think it's better now? Like, does it hurt a band, you know, with so much digital that's out there as far as people putting stuff on YouTube, or, you know, you guys uploading your own YouTube stuff or Spotify, Apple Music and all that stuff? Or would you say it actually helps a band?
I think it's helpful. I mean, people have the ability to listen to anything, anywhere. And I think, you know, I was mentioning that there seems to be a decent number of new people who are finding out about the band. I think that is due in large part to stuff like YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music. Like, you know, if somebody's paying $9.99 a month for a subscription to Spotify or Apple Music, they're much more inclined to go check out a record that somebody said they should check out, rather than taking a risk of, you know, spending 10 or 14 bucks or however much a CD costs to buy an entire record that they might not like. So ultimately the goal is to get people excited about the band and to come out to live shows and to support the band by buying merch. You know, if more people can hear us with feeling like they're taking less of a risk, like a financial risk, I back that. It definitely took some getting used to, but we still try to do cool things with vinyl because we know there are people who are record collectors and really value having like a physical piece, like a tangible item. I mean, for me, growing up, one of the coolest things I used to do with my dad was sit down and go through his record collection, and to be able to like read liner notes and check out album artwork and stuff like that. And I feel like that's getting lost a little bit in the digital age, but vinyl is still around for people who want to do that and experience music that way. But we've embraced the streaming thing. We put up PDFs of the album art and lyrics for everybody, because we do realize that a lot of people are streaming music now, and it's a viable option for listening to music now. So there's really no reason that those people should be robbed of the opportunity to read along with a lyric book and check out the artwork in conjunction with the music.
It is definitely seems like you guys have found a way to adapt to the technology increase in the music industry that way. Definitely. All right, we got a couple of fun ones for you real quick, and then I'm gonna let you go, and then we'll see you tonight in Charlotte. But
okay,
let's jump into some fun ones. All right, so let's say that your tour package right now was on the show Survivor. Which band would win Survivor and why?
Oh man. That's a tough one. I might go with Us, based solely on the fact that Ed is a woodworker and Tepe is like a leather and canvas craftsman. So he could they could build us some sort of living structure, some kind of tent or something. But I don't know. The Light of Speed guys seem like they're pretty capable at adapting to,
All right. Well,
circumstances. So.
All right. Well, let's reverse.
But here's the problem, though. Neither of the bands are like cutthroat at all. I think we're both very nice people, and I think you have to be cutthroat to win Survivor, right?
Yeah, pretty much. All right. Well, let's just say Thrice come down to be. It was just Thrice left on the island, and the winner of the $1 million was going to be pulled from your band. Who's going to be the first one to go home? And who's going to win it?
I think Dustin would probably go home first. He is very big on technology. Like, there was that commercial that was like, "Oh, there's an app for that." That's basically Dustin. Like, he has every app in the world on his phone, and he uses all of them. And I think if you took that away from him, he'd be a little lost at times. I think the winner would be Tepe. That dude is just insanely talented, and I don't know how he does it, but he's good at everything he does, whether it's, making leather wallets or canvas bags or playing guitar or playing keys or skateboarding. Like, give him something and he'll figure out a way to be good at it. So I think if he were in a competition like the Survivor, he'd wrap that one up pretty easily.
All right, one last fun one for you. We've all seen the Punk Goes Pop albums and things like that where rock bands will cover different pop songs. Let's say Disney decided that they were going to make a rock album and they were going to hire bands to come in and cover Disney tracks. What would be Thrice's Disney track that they would cover?
Oh, man. I don't know much about Disney tracks. I know Dustin would have one. Yeah. Was Newsies, was that a Disney thing?
I can't remember. I want to say so, but hey, we'll throw Newsies out there. We'll let Newsies be it.
Yeah. Dustin was a big Newsies fan, so he'd probably try to pull us in that direction. But I'm sure, like, over the years, some more compelling music has surfaced from Disney, and I'm sure Dustin or Tepe, with each of them has 3 kids. They know a little bit more about that world than I do. I'm not there yet.
Everybody that we've ever asked that question, they all want to do a cover of the Lion King song. Everybody wants nobody cool. wants to do anything else. So Disney's just going to have a full CD full of Lion King covers, I think, if this ever happens. So
that would be cool.
But is there anything else you want to plug real quick before we let you go?
Yeah.
So how much longer do you guys have left on the tour then?
We have just under 2 weeks, I think. Yeah, I think we're done June 25th in Denver. And, we've just kind of, like any tour, like, it takes you a couple of days to get your tour legs right and get your bearings straight. And, we haven't been on, like, an actual tour in, like, 4 years. So, just getting used to your schedule being different. And, most of us go to bed at about 10 p.m. when we're at home, and we're on stage at 10 p.m. every night on this tour. So it's like, you got to flip the script a little bit. But we're adjusting and we're having a blast, and the crowds have been insane. And we're just so thankful that we came back and that people are excited about it. And this is just the best, man. I missed it while it was gone.
All right, well, Riley, we'll see you tonight in Charlotte at the Fillmore. And for any of our listeners, If you have a date coming near your city here in the next few weeks, make sure you guys get out to see Thrice with La Dispute on support. Appreciate you talking with us, Riley.
Oh, man, thanks for talking to me.
All right.
Appreciate it.
See you tonight.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
On the beach 'cause I want honey on